Good morning, everyone. Well, good morning here on the West Coast. I guess it's still morning, noon-ish on the East Coast. Hi, my name is Erin Nolan. I am a registered nurse and a full-time doTERRA Wellness Advocate, Platinum ranking leader, and I am excited to be here with you guys to teach you about sourcing. I can't tell you how many times I have conversations with people who know about essential oils, use essential oils, even healthcare practitioners that use it in their practices, and when I talk to them about sourcing, they kind of look at me like I have two heads and are kind of confused about what sourcing is. So this is something that's very important to understand and understand why it matters for your essential oils, especially if you're going to be using them medicinally. So what is sourcing? What this means is where we are getting the plants from that we make the essential oils from. So remember, we make essential oils from seeds, roots, flowers, trees, plants, grasses, all different types of plant material or tree material that we then extract the essential oils from. It's very important where we get these plants from. So indigenous sourcing is what I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about. Indigenous sourcing is when we find these plants from where they originate in the wild, where they thrive naturally, and where these plants originally came from geographically around the world. It's very, very, very important to get your plants from the areas in the world that they come from naturally, not extracting them and crop growing them here in America or crop growing them where it's easier and cheaper. The reason there's a big difference when we can extract the essential oils from these plants where they thrive in the wild is because we're actually able to test these essential oils and see that they have higher compounds of the different molecular structures that we're looking for to use for medicinally. Hey Brandon, how are you? So it's very important to make sure that we are sourcing indigenously. Now, I like to use the example of Napa Valley grapes, right? You cannot go anywhere else and duplicate a Napa Valley grape. It has to come from Napa Valley. It has a specific elevation, specific rainy season, dry seasons, specific temperatures, specific elevations. The soil's very specific. So these are all the factors that go into play in making that Napa Valley grape because it makes a fine wine. So very similarly, we do that for our essential oils as well. So now, it's also very important to remember that a lot of the oils we get our plants from come from trees as well, and plants that don't grow cyclically or yearly. It's not something that we could potentially plant and in a few months' time gain an essential oil from that. Some of these essential oils come from trees that take decades to grow. So what doTERRA takes this very seriously in the fact that they actually employ conservationists and people who specialize in the ecosystem and knowing that specific territories in these different countries and knowing how to protect these trees, knowing how to protect these different plants that take a while to grow. So it's very important to also make sure that we are protecting and we're being respectful of these local ecosystems as well. An example of that is actually doTERRA's frankincense. We used to get that from Oman, and some of the conservationists were saying, hey, look, in a couple years, we could potentially start harming some of these trees. They're being overtapped. So what they said is, you know what, we're going to stop right now and we're going to find another area of the world where they grow wild, and we are then going to start sourcing where it's a healthy source for the ecosystem and we're not doing any harm to the planet. So now we get our frankincense from Somaliland. So you will see sometimes sourcing countries or sourcing regions do change, and that's the reason why. Something that's very unique to doTERRA as well is they have a 98% exclusivity rate. And what that means is 98% of the regions of the world or the areas they get these specific essential oils. So for example, wintergreen in Nepal, or where that region in Nepal that they get their wintergreen is exclusive to doTERRA. So when other companies claim, yeah, we get our essential oils from the same places as doTERRA, or essential oils are the same as doTERRA, that becomes a legal matter because that's not factual and that's not true. They have a 98% exclusivity rate for that. So now let's talk about the countries specifically. doTERRA sources from over 40 different countries globally. they do recognize that 3/4 of these countries that they source from are developing countries or third world countries. They're very poor and they need a lot of help. So doTERRA steps in with their co-impact sourcing. So this is a pillar that doTERRA feels very strongly about, actually builds their business on, is going back into these communities, partnering with them and impacting them positively. Hey Wendy, thanks for tuning in. So an example of that is through their Healing Hands Foundation. They do this through co-impact sourcing, and in addition through a foundation that they have that's called the Healing Hands Foundation. They go back into these communities. So for example, vetiver, where they get vetiver in Haiti, that's where they get their vetiver grass, and it's from the root there. They went in and gave this community running water. They had never had running water before. So they want to give back to the community, not only fair wages, not only protecting women's rights and allowing women to work as well, and giving women the ability to earn fair wages too, but they go back in, give running water. They have built schools, orphanages, hospitals. They just recently built a hospital in an area of Africa that the next area to get to any type of hospital care is 12 hours away, and they were able to change that for that community and give them a clinic and give them, actually it's almost a hospital compound where they can now get medical care that's not 12 hours away. They've also found different areas that they source from that have very high infant mortality rates for childbirthing. So they then came in and gave a safe birthing center, built a birthing center for them where they can have medical care and providers that can come and help them deliver their children in a safe environment and help impact and hopefully reduce that rate of infant mortality that they have in that community. So doTERRA has a very big humanitarian heart behind their company. A lot of their profits go back into their Healing Hands Foundation and then the co-impact sourcing, so that they're impacting these communities in a positive way. We just got back from doTERRA's global convention, and we basically spent several days just learning about the impact doTERRA and how doTERRA is changing the world, and it is just amazing. It is so great, and I love not only that they source indigenous, but also that we're making this huge footprint and this huge positive impact in the world just by getting our essential oils from these specific different communities. So I hope that makes sense. Why sourcing is so important, why doing it right is so important, and why making sure you do it ethically is so important. Some of these farmers as well, for centuries, have not been getting paid for the plants that they give to some of these essential oil companies. They're also getting paid very late. So doTERRA just wanted to change things around and make sure that we are doing things right and we're doing things ethically, and that's just a few examples of how they're doing that. So I hope that is helpful. So now when someone talks to you about sourcing, you will know what they're talking about, and you'll be able to have a little bit of a foot up on having that conversation with them. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, want more information about anything that I talked about, as always, just comment below, message me, text me, email me, any of that. I'm always available to talk. Thanks guys, bye.